It's a 5-room dungeon. Yeah, a 5-room dungeon. It's a one-shot complete with 5-story beats. We call the show the 5-room dungeon.
Okay, so this is our brainstorm session for a one-shot, and the theme of this one-shot adventure was created by Moose. And Moose, tell us what the theme is for tonight.
The theme is going to be a heist centered around a temple.
There we go. A heist centered around a temple. So this could go a few different ways. Truth be told, both Moose and I have some ideas on what we want to pitch here. What we're going to end up with is a mixture of his ideas and my ideas, and it should be great. So let's go ahead and move on. Segment 1, we're going to set the hook, right? So we're going to talk about this heist, and we're going to summarize what players can expect just in a quick pitch. Segment 2, we're going to get into what the adventuring party should look like, the size, the roles, yada yada. We'll get into segment 3, which is the 5 W's of the adventure, and then we'll actually get into designing the rooms. All right, so segment 1, let's set the hook. And we talked about this a little bit already. It's a heist. Of course, you can see the image here. Maybe not stealing dollars. So let's talk about the genre first. Now, Moose, when you had this concept of heist in your mind, what genre were you going for?
I had 2 major genres that I was going for, and one was stealing some sort of artifact from a crypt under a temple that had been derelicted, that
Okay.
maybe the original what's the word I'm looking for, clergy, religious sect had abandoned, but now someone wants something that was rumored to be under there,
Okay.
or to steal from a vault from a corrupt king or guild master.
I got to tell you the truth. I love both of those ideas, but I want to reel you in a little bit here. Let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's look at big picture. The genre. Are we talking about? Is it spooky? Is it campy and fun? Is it super serious? I
I was feeling gritty.
Gritty. Okay. Now, when you say gritty, what do you mean by that?
Like a darker theme. Um, Best way to explain that. I'm thinking as a not so lighthearted and humorous, but dark, a lot of evil, potentially. Uh,
So there's a word that I want to use to describe this theme, and it is eldritch. If you're familiar with
yes,
the
I, I could I
eldritch
could I
horror
could
concept.
I could I could get on board with how that would be the descriptor.
Okay, I love that. It fits right in with what I had in mind. So let's go with that. Let's say that this is a gritty, spooky, kind of evil overtones, um, and that'll help us when we do our storytelling. Just keeping it as an immersive experience, right? Like there's this impending sense of doom and something bigger than you, you know, just looming over you. All right, so I'm good with the genre and the tone. If you are, we can move on.
Yep. Yep. I think we can move on.
Okay, so a one sentence description for the premise, and I think you already kind of you kind of nailed that already, and it's a heist, right? Where you're going to be
Yep.
stealing something from some type of dark temple, and I think
I mean, that kind of nails it, doesn't it?
yeah. I mean, from a very high level, I think that's enough to get players hooked. We're going to be pitching these one shots to different groups of players and saying, hey, how does this concept sound? How does this sound? And if they have a couple choices, this is the hook. Once they're like, yeah, I like that. I like that. We set the hook with this premise and we're good to go. So I'm good with that. Let's talk about the twist. So we know that we're going to be stealing something. We know that this temple is it's either some type of corrupted building, or that it's some type of crypt. It's some type of derelict, forgotten place. But what's the twist here? What is how do we divert expectations along the way here?
So I was kind of thinking when I was sort of given my my overview in my head as how I was sort of thinking about this would be that they're the players are approached by somebody to go and steal this artifact because if it sits there, some dark entity is going to wake up and use it, or it will allow the entrance into this world by some greater evil. But the twist would be that if it stays there, then that's what's actually keeping this entity contained. Or perhaps the entity is actually contained within that, and the person who is actually hiring them is working for said entity or organization or powers that be.
Hey man, I think you and I are on the same wavelength here. Let me add a little bit of spice to your idea.
Okay.
Right. So
Let's hear it.
this item, the dark entity wants to use it. We'll say that. How about we say that the employer has hired this crew to steal this item, and the item is what is keeping this dark entity at bay. Right. They go through a bit of a process. When they find this item, they realize, oh, there's a connection to this dark entity, which they don't know is in the crypt. And once they determine that it's in the crypt, they know that this item is what will set it free. However, the plan of the employer the whole time is just for the crew to die. And their sacrifice is really what's going to keep this entity at bay.
Interesting.
So
They're
not being sent to steal the item. They're being sent to think they're stealing the item and just to feed this machine that is built to feed this entity, or what is binding this entity at the base of the temple.
The unknowing sacrifice.
That's right. That's right. And
Like,
can I pitch a second twist?
absolutely.
There's a second team.
Yep. I'd contemplated something along those lines of having the twist be that there was a second employer employing a second team with countervailing knowledge, and they had to figure out which team had the real information.
Yeah,
Who is the one who is actually charged to try and stop this from happening.
I like the idea
which
that there's two teams, right? And each is given part of the solution. they have to rely on each other. So our party's team was sent in to steal the item, but the secondary team is sent as the extraction team. But really, the employer wants both teams there to fight amongst each other and to just be fed into the temple.
So the employer's essentially hired both teams and doesn't care which one comes back out as long as one of the teams dies, because that's the sacrifice.
Well, they don't want either one of the teams to
Oh,
escape.
interesting.
So whatever they can do to sabotage each other is good for the employer.
Interesting. I like it. I could see how that would trip a lot of people up.
Yeah, so with this being a very gritty tone, there has to be casualties along the way, right? They need to know what's at stake here. That we're not going to just be able to walk out of here. So it's either the party members doing very unwise things that get themselves killed because it's a one-shot and they can very well be killed, or it's the rival team doing things that gets them killed. You as the DM, you have a way to feed the machine regardless of what choices the party makes.
I like it.
Okay, so I think those are a couple twists that we can throw in there. They are given a mission, but the mission is not what they were told it is, and there's a second team that has different information that should keep them all guessing and arguing about what they should do. Should they take out the other team? Should they stick to what the employer said, or do they just throw away the whole plan? All right, so let's talk about the party and exactly what we need here. I think a good party size is between 3 and 5 players. And that's really no different for a one-shot. Moose, do you see this story working with any one of those party sizes, or is there a minimum number of guys that you need?
I would say that you probably couldn't get away with less than 3, because you need a certain level of teamwork.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, if you were someone that had the number of people available and could manage it, would be to have 8 people or 6 players in separate rooms and essentially DM them together as the other parties.
Oh, that is wild. Yeah, I could see that. You are.
I think it would make.
You're DMing one team, and I'm DMing the other team, and at a certain point, those teams come together, or we're feeding information to each other about what the other team is doing. That could be really wild.
Now that would definitely add a level of complexity to a one shot, but it could make for one hell of a memorable adventure.
Yeah, that is. You know what? We're going to put a pin in that idea, because that is very unique, and I think this is a great opportunity for it.
Maybe not this time around, but could be interesting.
Remember that this one shot is going to be adaptable for any group size, any game system. So we definitely want to leave the door open for for DMs who want to take on that, who want to take on that challenge, right? So the way I see it is, room 1 is going to be the actual theft of the item. And then room 2 is going to be where the two teams meet. So you could run separate sessions of room 1 for each party, which could be great.
You could have one DM just running 2 separate groups on 2 separate days,
and then bring them together.
Yeah, and then bring them together, like essentially a session zero, more or less, for each group independently,
Yeah.
and then bring them together where they now in a hostile environment encounter each other and then play it out as a one shot that day in that capacity.
I love it. So when we do room one, let's plan it both ways. Let's do a
Okay.
room one for each party.
Sounds good.
I would say we need at least teams of 4 to make this work. I don't think
It
that.
tends to balance it
Yeah.
tends to balance the party a little more having four. You cover more of the skill and resource bases to I just find it's a lot more balanced with four. You could do it with three, but your party composition becomes more critical as opposed to with four, you have a little more flexibility with what type of characters the players want to play.
I always fall back on what is the perfect action team, right? And I would say that it's the Ninja Turtles, right? You've got the
Mm-hmm.
smart one, you've got the tough one, you've got the funny one, and then you've got the leader. And I think that's what you need for a heist, right? You may
Agreed.
have 3 different types of challenges, but then you also need a leader to delegate and to be the voice of reason. So that's why I say a group of 4. And certainly with a challenge like this, you would think that they would need at least a team of 4. If you lose one, you still have 3 left. You can still do a lot with 3 people. But if you have 3 and you lose one, and then you're down to 2.
Yeah, and if you lose like your rogue, who is the one who can overcome traps and things, and what you're left with is a fighter or barbarian and a druid, you might just be out of luck. You might just have broken your ability to even push forward any further.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about class and level. For the purpose of our demonstration and what you're going to see in the PDF down in the description below, in our sample adventure package, is that we're going to be using D&D 5e 2024 rules. It's not much different from 2014 rules. But what are you thinking as far as level, and do you have any restrictions on classes?
I would hesitate with homebrew classes, especially starting out if the DM is new, just because that could get really unbalanced and could ruin the fun for the other players around them. But I wouldn't have much restriction on class other than that. And probably with this, you'd want to be at least level 3 so that the individual classes sort of come into their own. Though depending on the system, some systems might have the classes really start developing much earlier than level 3. But at least in 5e, level 3 is when your class takes shape. You
Yeah.
have a reasonable amount of resources and abilities so as to make overcoming challenges. Um, you have more options for how to work your way around different challenges without it just being like, oh, well, the wizard casts pick a spell that just solves the problem that you'd get with much higher levels.
Yeah, I agree. Level 3 is where I see a lot of campaigns start, and the reason is because at level 3, everybody's got a subclass. So that's when you really specialize your character and you really get some flavor out of what they are. I remember the Warlock class used to be uh, uh, really boring until level 3 in the past. And there's a couple other classes like that. But now everybody's kind of on that same level. At level 3, you get to pick from one of 4 subclasses. And I am a vanilla guy. I like the core rule book and the base classes that are in there, but I don't judge anybody who uses any of the expanded material. I get it. You paid for the book, use it, but just be wary of those homebrew classes because they can be a little broken. The base
Sure.
classes that we're talking about, the ones in the player handbook, we're talking about barbarian, bard, cleric, druid, fighter, monk, paladin, ranger, rogue, sorcerer, warlock, and wizard. I would also add in there blood hunter and artificer. I don't think they're too much of a stretch from
I
that.
mean,
From
Artificer was included in the 2014. Unfortunately, at the time of recording, they haven't included it yet, but it should absolutely be there. I in my own head, I was including those because they're fairly well flushed out and balanced.
yeah,
I feel.
yeah, and as far as races go, I don't have any issues with any of the races. I think they did a great job in the new PHB where they made the races basically the same as far as racial bonuses. They just have a couple different racial features. I think humans get a heroic inspiration, and some of the other classes get dark vision and some other things. So I'm
Most of the
fine.
deviation comes from the origin feats now, as opposed to specifically racially based, with minor exceptions, like you were saying.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So no limitations on those starter level 1 feats either. The ones in the PHP are fine. The ones that have been added in additional content, I'm fine with those too. What we're most concerned about here is giving the players some versatility, so they're not just a one-trick pony. We don't want any player to feel like there's nothing for them to do, and hopefully we can build a challenge that kind of engages everybody.
Yeah, I think that should be. They might not be each aspect might hone in on one class or another's specialties, but everybody's going to shine at some point, I think, during this.
Yeah, hopefully.
The
So
goal.
as far as party cohesiveness, I think it's very important that everybody at the table agrees that they are a member of a crew and they are bound to each other in some way. And they can come up with their own backstory, why they were hired to do this job. Maybe they have some type of debt. Maybe they are a type of team that's done other heists before. Maybe they're being blackmailed in some way. It doesn't really matter what the reason is that they're here. The most important thing is that they are bound to each other. If we have a party of 5 rogues and they're all trying to stab each other in the back to get the item, that's going to be really sloppy, and it's going to result in a pretty short campaign for a short one shot for a few folks. Moose, what's your thoughts
Agreed.
on that?
I agree. Yeah, something that I have encountered is sometimes it's hard to get a player to buy in, and with a one shot, it you just it people might call it railroading, but at the end of the day, you're all trying to tell a story together, and whatever the characters they choose to play, just need to they need to accept, they need to come together and buy into the fact that they are now together, just to make the story work and to have a good time. It's not fun with if the rogue is constantly trying to steal from everybody, or like you said, stabbing everybody in the back because, oh, that's what my rogue does. Oh, that kind of just ruins it for everybody else. So the most important thing is to just, this is the story we're telling, so everybody works together. This is, you can choose why you're working together, come up with your own reasons as players, but at the end of the day, that's sort of what the game is about. Is you buy into, here's the hook, here's what we're doing, now let's see where it leads us from there.
Yeah, and anything you can do to draw this group together, if they have a shared, well, they're going to have a shared employer, right? But if they have anything else that they share, a bloodline, or if they have a shared secret amongst them, where they're sworn to secrecy, or for whatever it
Childhood
is.
friends. Like maybe they all grew up in the same town together and they just got into trouble together and they just sort of were this known little posse. Like
Yeah.
it could be any number of things for sure.
Maybe it's a case of like Squid Games where they all just received a mysterious business card that said, "Hey, meet here," and for riches unforetold. And they were like, "Well, yeah, I'm pretty far in debt. Student loans are barking at me, so let's do the job."
Yep.
I had an idea of, this is in line with that Ninja Turtle idea or even an A team idea, right? That you've got
Hmm.
specific roles within the party, that you've got the muscle, the brains, the rogue, you've got the leader, you've got the charismatic one, and then you may have the unpredictable one. That's kind of what you see in these heist movies. If you've seen Ocean's 11 or The Italian Job, each guy's got like a thing that they do, the explosive expert or the electronics guy or the really acrobatic guy. That can be really fun if everybody says, "This is the thing I do. You do your thing, I'll do my thing, and we will know when to step back and let the other guy step in."
I would tend to agree. The only other way you go about it is that nobody knows what they're doing. And and that leads for a dark themed campaign with with a bit of slapstick humor, the light and dark scenes when people bungle it because well no one's done this before because for whatever reason they were all forced together to go and do this thing that maybe they'd never done it.
Yeah, I
Could
think
be another interesting way of approaching it,
I
but
think what you're
I think this
describing is a jailbreak rather than a job they were hired to do. And
well,
you're
I
right.
mean, it, two things can be true at once.
And you're right.
Maybe they
Both.
broke out of jail and they were forced into doing this so they wouldn't go back to jail.
That's right. That's right. This could be the second of a series of one shots. One thing I would warn here is that you want to avoid having two characters with the same archetype, right? So if you have two strong guys, one of them is going to bully the other one out of the off camera. So one of them is going to feel like, why am I even here? What do I even have to offer this group? And then they're going to feel entitled to encourage a what's the word I want to use? An early demise for the guy that is most similar to them.
I would actually push back on that because it depends. It could very easily go that way for sure, but you
Yeah.
could also have a couple of muscle bound soldier buddies who are just that team. They've been to war together, or a couple of rogues who have done thieving together in their own, and they work together as a team. And so they play off of each other as opposed to against each other.
Okay. All right. So
But that's only if the players already sort of. I think you'd have to have the right people for that to work.
oh yeah,
Otherwise, I definitely see it going what exactly how you described.
you're right.
Like
That
everybody kind of needs to have their role, but if you had the right players who had some experience playing D&D or any other RPG system and they worked well together, you could make that work, but it would take a more unique situation um, with the right players together, I would say.
oh yeah,
But
yeah.
it could work.
I mean, I could see that you have a fire wizard and an ice wizard, and they're always at odds with each other, but they both kind of do the same thing. That could
Yeah.
work. It requires a fair amount of finesse to pull it off.
It it also though the pushback against that would also be though that you're also limiting the diversity of your group
Yeah.
and thereby limiting the skill set. And so not to say that players couldn't choose to do that, but when tackling a large event like this would be, even though it's a one shot, you need to make sure that you have most of your bases is covered. And if you only have 4 people, there's certain pillars that you need to be able to cover. And if you're missing one of those, you might get stuck and end up at a dead end that you can't overcome.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Okay, so let's get into the 5 Ws of what this adventure is going to look like. Um, First of all, we're talking about who is involved, and we've been through this before. We've got the party, we've got their employer, and we've got the other crew. Is there anybody else that we need to include?
I mean, you might include a few additional NPCs in the town. They know what their employer tells them we need you to go do this thing. They need to do their own potentially pre-adventure prep, acquiring gear, maybe acquiring any hints or knowledge from the local area. So there might be a few additional NPCs that are not necessary to to run the adventure, but might spice up the world and spice up the story a little bit if you included a couple extra NPCs that they can interact with before they get to the entrance itself.
Now, how do you
Like,
feel about the players creating those NPCs themselves? Because they're not entirely important to
oh
the story.
no, and that's absolutely a good point. You could, if a player wrote a backstory that included their parents ran a shop, well, great. There's your NPCs for the store owner. Is it's so and so's parents, and you go and visit them, and maybe the party gets a bit of a discount because it's family, or the barkeep is a friend, or yeah, I mean the players. You could certainly, I would say, encourage the players to come up with NPCs because it takes a little bit of load off the DM.
You know, I think in a 5 room dungeon, you have to keep things moving quickly. And I've seen some of these sessions break down into a shopping episode, right? Or a tavern episode. So we want to avoid that. We want to just drop them right into the action and assume that all of that has been done prior to the point where, we're saying go. Like we want to start right in the action. Um, so I think it's good to have NPCs, especially common NPCs, but I don't think we want to role play them during the episode.
Fair enough. I could get on board with that being just jump straight in and get rolling with the action.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel like we need to have guards?
Not necessarily. I mean, it kind of depends on how the entrance ends up being laid out. Guards might be appropriate. Guards might, I mean, if it's an old abandoned temple, there certainly wouldn't be any guards around. It's
Yeah.
been abandoned for years. Now, it might look, maybe it just looks abandoned. Maybe everybody just assumed it was abandoned and it was creepy, so no one ever went in. But maybe there was a couple of skeletal guards that just stood motionless that nobody noticed because they were just inside. So guards could play a part, but I don't think they're essential
Is
for
it is
for
it
the entrance.
would you say it's scarier with or without guards?
It really depends on how you'd play the guards, um, and what the guards are. What the guards are probably makes more of a difference, but with no guards, you just have nothing. You just don't know what's coming. So it's the fear of the unknown
Yeah.
as opposed. But if you had a couple of guards, you immediately have that initial resource drain even before you've gone in, and now you've had maybe a spell slot or used up, or maybe a wild shape has been used up, which just makes then further pushes the intensity of the rest of the scenario,
Yeah.
because now you're just that little bit more resource drained before you even really get into the meat of it. And so now you're really being conscious about it. So I mean that could up the ante. And that also could be something that you make a decision about as far as how skilled are the players. If the players are relatively new, maybe you just skip out on the guards altogether because you don't want to overtax someone who isn't necessarily going to be skilled at resource management. If it's a really skilled party, maybe you throw a bunch of guards right up in there and you see how well they deal with it, and really make it dark and gritty. Like, you might not survive this. There's a good chance. Here's what you're starting with.
I want to
Set the tone.
I want to avoid this becoming a railroad, right? Where you
Hmm.
say, okay, a guard shows up, you have to kill them, you have to dispatch them. And what I think might be more interesting, although I think guards are perfect, if this were a regular campaign session, absolutely guards. Maybe we start after they've already dispatched a couple guards. And from this
Could.
point forward, there are no guards, but there is this second team that's present. And they're not sure, are they allies or are they enemies? And now they can choose to go to war with them immediately or later on, or they can choose to turn them into allies. And I think that's an interesting dynamic, which will reflect what kind of party is actually playing the game.
That's true. You could also have a secondary entrance or a way to avoid the guards.
Uh huh.
If they're like, you could have these guards there, but it's not necessary to even confront the guards as an alternative to avoid the railroading, which you don't want to just railroad something through because that's not very fun.
Yeah, and
Um,
and I think you're
sometimes you need to keep the story moving, but it's you try to avoid that. And so you could have a clever party. You could have that option that there is another, and you could hint at the fact that this might not be the only way in, to give them some options for
yeah. Well,
how to
that's
tackle.
that second team. They're going to just deliver that information. Yeah, we came in a different route, and we're here to extract you
Mhm.
through that secondary route. And the party goes, "Oh, great! We don't have to go back through all that mess that we made on the way in. You're going to show us the way out." It's like the Lord of the Rings,
Yep.
and
Yep.
Gollum is going to show you the way out. So you follow the
Yep.
monster on the way to freedom, but you're cautious.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
so
I can see that.
I want to go back for a second, but did I go? There we go. To talk about the Who, I mean, let's go ahead and give the big bad a name. We talked about this being some type of entity that's locked up. And the concept I had in my mind is that it's some type of chained god or demon or monster or even an alien that is at the base of this temple, like within the heart of this mountain.
One terrible thought I had was someone at some point in history managed to contain the Tarask,
Okay.
and they have level 3 parties who confront the fact that that is there at some point.
So
Now, I wasn't sure if that might end up being just a little too over the top to,
now I don't know
but
enough about the Tarask to know. Does it have any psychic abilities?
it does not, though it is virtually immune to magic damage. Um, and it is purely, my understanding of the history of it is that it was created by someone as a entity of pure destruction. It
Okay.
regenerates extremely quickly. There's only one of them. It is almost impossible to truly kill because you have to destroy like every cell of its body for it to truly not be able to grow back. I'm not sure if the recent 5e has adjusted that. This is coming from older lore. And then so it becomes this almost unstoppable. You can kill it, but after a certain amount of time it just regenerates.
So it's
And
Godzilla. I gotcha.
it's essentially it's Godzilla without the nuclear breath.
Oh, because you don't want it to be overpowered, right?
Exactly. You don't want it to be completely overpowered. It's only completely indestructible, basically. It can be killed, but it's one of those things that it would require, without cheesing it, a group of very high level to
So,
actually fight it one on one. It's the kind of thing that just like storms through a city and just flattens everything
well,
with no impedance.
let's make it a little scarier, not with laser beams, but let's give it psychic powers, right? So
Okay.
as the party is traveling through this temple, they're getting these whispers, and and as the DM, you're passing notes to the players as they hear whispers, and other players don't know what's on that card, but they read it, and it says like, "Don't trust the other crew," or it says like, "Bring the item to me," or "Set me free," and
So so
eh,
what you're saying is in its captivity it's gained sentience.
well,
That is scary.
not only
An intelligent.
sentience, but so its physical form is restrained, but it has the reach to psychically speak with
Yes.
any adventurer who's foolish enough to enter the temple, and that's what our employer was counting on, was that
That is
once they
that is a scary Tarask.
well, we're using Tarask as a label right now.
Yes, I'm agreed. Like this ups the horror factor of this considerably.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the scary part, which can add a lot of uniqueness depending on the DM and what kind of notes they want to tease the party with. Um, when they
And it's also very system interchangeable. Any system that has some big horrible or make your own eldritch horror monster that is of the same capacity that you just don't want released under
sure,
any circumstances.
yeah. So it's a dragon,
Apocalyptic
it's
scale.
a vampire, it's a space whale. It's
Yeah,
whatever is the scariest thing you can think of.
it's Cthulhu.
Play your biggest magic card and stick it in the base of this mountain, and that's what's down there. But then give it mind powers too.
Yep. I
Okay.
agree. I like the idea that it's whispering lies and increasing the doubt amongst the players and the party, seeding suspicions.
Yeah. Yeah, and as a DM, I don't think that I can role play a god or a demon very well, but I know some DMs are gonna hear this setup and go, oh well, you put a greater demon down there, or you put an eldritch god or a celestial being down there, and a fallen angel, if you will, and the righteous fury that would be unleashed by any one of those things would be just devastating, right?
Catastrophic for
So
sure.
we're
And
gonna
and,
say
and
that
you just pick
that's
whichever monster you can role play the best
that's right.
and stick it in there.
That's right. Okay, well let's move on there. The what we talked about, the target objective is you're going to steal an item and then you're supposed to leave the dungeon with that item. So moment of truth here. Pitch me an idea for an item that could be this the focal point of this heist.
Well, it could, given let's just roll with it's a Tarask down there that has gained sentience and psychic abilities. Perhaps the item is an egg
Okay.
for another Tarrasque, and the only thing keeping that Tarrasque there is partially that it's guarding its egg. It's bound. Its physical body is bound, but also the egg is what is bound, and so the Tarrasques won't leave it. But if you remove the egg, if you somehow break the seal that holds the egg or whatever it is that's there, it will unleash all of its rage to reacquire it, since it is the only one in existence. And that was maybe part of how they trapped it there ages past, was they found the egg, and that was the way that they lured it into becoming trapped. That was the only thing that could lure it to where they could trap it, or something along those lines.
So, what is stopping our party from just smashing the egg?
Well, if the egg is destroyed, then the Tarrasque is released, because now it has nothing to bind it there. It has nothing keeping it there, and now it is truly unstoppable, because there's nothing left for it to fear being destroyed. For that's its only hope of offspring.
Now that could end our one shot pretty early, right? They find the item in the vault, they smash it right away, they drop it, they lose it, it rolls away.
I would say that something like that, it wouldn't just be a you drop it and it smashes. I would assume it would be a fairly durable thing. Like you
Okay.
couldn't just one shot hit it with a sword, but potentially destroyable. But I'm open to other ideas. That's just the first thing that popped off on the top of my head.
Yeah, so I like the idea, but keep in mind that some of the monsters that people pick are not going to be egg laying monsters.
This
So
is true.
I want to pitch an idea that's something a little less breakable and more universal,
Okay.
where it could be the heart of the creature. Somebody has
Yes.
removed the heart and put it within some type of container, or removed the soul and put it in some type of amulet. And then
I like that.
once reunited with the creature, it gains back its full physical strength.
I like the spirit one, because that diminishes it regardless of what it is, regardless of the type of creature. The spirit one I like, or the heart if said creature somehow doesn't have a spirit or something. I like that it's contained in a metal box or something that's difficult to damage,
Uh
or
huh.
something like that. I like that idea, because it diminishes its essence, and therefore that's how it got trapped. And without, if that spirit is released, it will immediately jump back to its body and regain its full capacity, giving it the ability to break free.
So if the spirit is within a box, how easy is it to open the box?
I would say very difficult. I
So
would say that
like a puzzle
whoever
box.
trapped the spirit in there would have put assorted arcane wards and magical locks, and as well as physical locks, heavy chains, or something that you can't. No one could just walk in there and accidentally open it. If you dropped it, it's not going to accidentally open. It has to be a very intentional and with considerable effort to be able to open it.
So this is a great opportunity for you as a DM to give a puzzle to the party and
Mhm.
say, if you want to open the box, you have to solve this puzzle, and you can provide a
Yes.
handout. And I'm not saying this has to be the puzzle box from Hellraiser, but something along those lines could work very well. You know, it could be a box that is made of some type of indestructible metal, dark metal, soul steel, star metal, whatever you call it. But definitely some type of unholy metal that can be appraised by the group as wow. Just the material cost itself is worth a fortune, but if it has any real purpose, it's it's without value. It's priceless.
Hmm.
I like all of that. The spirit in a box. I want to pitch a crazy idea, and then we'll move
Okay.
on. The idea that I had was a box that is easily opened, and inside it is a pair of dice with eldritch symbols on it. Right, and
Okay.
these could be D10s or maybe D6s. And then when you're playing at a table, you hand this physical box to the players at the table. They can open it up, they can look at the dice. Anybody who rolls those dice is cursed. And anybody who rolls doubles releases the demon.
That would be one way to end it real quick.
Well, what are the odds of rolling doubles? Right? And
On D10s, considerably less. Um, but yeah, you could do that. Here's another. If the curse wouldn't be so much curse as they take um like ability score damage. They're drained as the box that contains that the spirit is trapped within, and perhaps the spirit is trapped within the box itself, but just opening the box doesn't release it. It requires the dice being rolled to with like you said doubles for it to release the spirit and break the magic of the box.
okay.
But anyone who rolls and doesn't get doubles, it feeds the spirit. And so over the ages, people have strengthened the spirit, but the spirit, no matter how strong, cannot break free from the bonds. But if it ever does break free, then it's just empowering it that much more.
I like that. So
But also, if the spirit dies, all the bonds break, and you have a creature with no spirit and no guiding force, so no intelligence. And now it's just a rampaging, almost godlike creature with no motivation.
hmm,
It's just destruction. And there's now no way to trap it. So this is why they get sent down there, is because the sacrifice of their spirits feed the spirit of this creature to keep the spirit of the creature alive, which keeps it all trapped.
hmm. So if somebody picks up the dice at your table and rolls them, what's the effect?
Hmm. I would say constitution or wisdom.
Yeah, I
Those
like.
would be the two that I would associate most with the spirit. Either the constitution because it's your life force being drained into the spirit, or it's your life force being drained into the box, feeding the magical wards that keep the spirit trapped. Could be another way to go about it. Or your wisdom because it's draining your essence. Wisdom is sort of seen as the essence, at least in D&D, the spiritual guiding essence. And so that could be what's getting drained into the box.
Yeah, I could see the Constitution being a physical drain, and kind of sapping their ability to heal. I like
Mm-hmm.
Wisdom a little bit better. I think that's the mechanic that's used for madness, and if we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about psychic attacks and eldritch type spookiness, I think causing people to slowly lose their minds uh, is
Yep.
is the way to go. If their wisdom hits zero, they die, right?
Yes.
If
Yeah.
any of
If any of your stats hit zero, you're dead.
right, so
That's it.
somebody at your table rolls the dice, and I go, "Oh, give me a wisdom saving throw," and they fail, and then it's like, okay, reduce your wisdom ability score by 1. They're going to be like, what? You're like, yeah. And then you say, would you like to roll the dice again? They're going to go, no, I'm good. That's enough of that.
Yeah. It- or it's roll a d4. Your wisdom drops by that.
Oh, oof.
If you want to really up the ante. I was thinking a d6, but I'm like, no, that's too much.
You know, we'll leave it up to the discretion of the DM here. What,
Yes.
you know, if they put those dice in the box, 2 dice, how many sides are on those dice? That'll determine how likely you are to get doubles, and then what the penalty would be. Just to expound on that concept, this box that holds the dice, I had the genius idea to say whenever you close the box, the dice automatically return to the box. That way you can't lose
I
the
like that.
dice. You can't separate the dice as long as the box is intact. So,
I also would say that the dice can't be more than, say, 60 feet from the box. If you are holding the dice and you walk away from the box, at at 61 feet, the dice vanish from your hand and they're back in the box. The two are intrinsically connected in a way that you can't just take the dice and walk away.
I had that same idea, but I'll pitch an idea here of a
Okay.
good ending to the story, right? Like,
Hmm.
it's a lot of bad, right?
It's a
The,
lot of bad.
it's a lot of bad. The only good ending, the right answer here is you take the box, you open it, you take the dice out of the box, you give 1 dice to that guy, another dice to a different guy, and then you destroy the box so that the dice can never be reunited again. That would keep the creature at bay, ensure that the dice are never rolled together as a pair again, and that the dice cannot be joined again when the box closes.
But that would interfere with the box containing the spirit. Or was your concept that the existence of the box and the dice together are the only, or the lock, and if the lock is destroyed, then there's nothing to unlock?
I think that I
Like,
was going with that the dice are what holds the spirit, and not
oh, okay.
not the
Not the
box
box.
itself. The box is just a reliquary to gather the dice together in one
Okay.
container. But the dice itself are what holds the soul. So by splitting the dice into 2 separate places, that ensures that that nothing bad happens until they're rejoined again at a later point.
Okay. I could see that being the only resolution. You could just say that, like, this is the only way. Every other option ends up with something bad, either people dying or people dying because the entity was released. Either way, it's all bad unless you do this one thing. And that's another riddle to be solved, is
Yeah. Yep.
what is the one way to prevent this from possibly ever happening that the original people didn't conceive of, or perhaps someone working for the entity brought the dice together in hopes that the creature would then be released. Who knows how long it's been trapped there? Eons,
Yeah.
perhaps. Maybe originally the dice were separated and they were brought together, and then the creature has a cult following hidden somewhere that's trying to bring the dice, or that brought the dice back together and is trying to get the creature released.
Yeah, it's very on theme as well with D&D, right? You put that
Yeah.
set of dice on the table, and you can buy some really cool looking dice, and just
Hmm.
put them in the center of the table, and don't say a word to the party, and see who goes for it, right? I mean, that's a really
Hmm.
fun mechanic and game moment to see if anybody
I
actually goes
agree.
for it.
You just take the box and say, "This is what you see," and you just place it on the table.
Oh, I love that. And you don't even
and then
describe
and
what's
then
inside it. They just open it up.
no, they just someone, whoever it is, whichever one of the party has the most initiative, is just going to reach out and pick it up and be like, and they're going to look at it. They're going to hear the dice roll,
Uh-huh.
and they're going to hear something in there. They're going to shake it. Unknowingly, they've just rolled the dice.
Boy,
And
that
so you
is
say,
gritty. That is tough.
so then you say, okay, now you have to now open the box. And you tell them, like, you have to tell them, okay, now open the box. And then you look at it. If there's doubles, well, you just disturbed the one thing that will now release it.
Right. And
Or
that's
if there aren't doubles, then you tell them either you roll a d4 or you've just lost one wisdom.
yes.
And they don't know why. They don't know that it's because the dice have been rolled at that point. So there's still the opportunity for someone else to see these dice, pick them up, and like maybe they just casually set them down on the table and that rolls again.
Oh, that is
They
tough.
need to figure
You're a
this
tough
out,
DM.
right?
You're a
I,
tough DM.
when I go gritty, I like to go gritty.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on because we have a few good ideas there, all of which will work for what we're trying to accomplish.
Indeed.
Let's talk about the where, the location of this dungeon. We talked about it being a derelict temple, maybe an ancient ruin.
It could be, I mean, you could set it in almost any setting. It could be if you wanted to go underwater. It could be an underwater if you were going Cthulhu theme. It could literally be an underwater temple, as in the original story of Cthulhu. It could be a desert temple. I mean, you could place it in the heart of a mountain.
Yes, I like the idea of a mountain being placed on top of this entity. I also like the idea of this vault being within catacombs beneath a city. So there's a city at the base of the mountain. There's catacombs that the party's already gone through. They've dispatched some of the guards in those catacombs until they find this
Maybe
vault.
maybe that's how they got to level 3. They got their level 3 at the start of this 5-room dungeon because they've already explored these catacombs,
Yeah.
and that got them to that point. Works in perfect.
So I want to make sure that they can't go back the way that they came in. What's a good way to seal off that entrance?
You just the party entering a earthquake could happen, caused by just being in that close proximity to this entity. It stirs, and that collapses the entrance that they came in from. Now, as we discussed, there's this other potential way out, but they don't necessarily know that yet, and now their quick escape has just collapsed. It's old catacombs. It could be that. It could be a door that just a big rock trap door that just slams shut.
Yeah. Hey, are you familiar with the Shakespearean story of Fortunato?
I'm not actually familiar with that one.
So the story involves two men in catacombs, and one man tells the other, "Hey, just go down this tunnel and you'll find what you're looking for." And as the man is searching, the guy who's giving instructions is laying masonry bricks to seal him inside this tunnel. And the reason that he's sealing him in there is because he has dishonored the honor of this man in some way. Either he took his lover or something like that, and he played as if he had forgiven the man, but instead he lured him down into these tunnels and then he sealed him in with bricks. And I kind of
you're saying the other party seals them in?
Well, no, I would say somebody else from the surface. As soon as they entered,
like they're like someone else employed by the employer.
Yeah, sure.
Specifically to track them while they're going at a distance until they've crossed a certain point and then seal them in.
Yeah, Yeah. So if they try to go,
I like the deception. I like the deception angle on that. That
yeah,
they don't realize it until it's too late, and maybe someone collapses a tunnel and they hear a noise, and they see someone intentionally collapsing the tunnel, but they can't do anything about it.
the issue I have with the tunnel collapse is that you can only collapse it once,
This is
right?
true.
So we want to make it seem like people have been sent down here for this mission many times, and
Or
just
they pull a lever and a door shuts
yeah,
that can only be opened from the other side.
yep, I like that as well because this
But,
is a machine, if you will. It's a
mhm.
sacrifice machine. So having
Yes, good
moving
point.
walls is on par with it's on theme with what we're doing.
Yes, yes, I like that a lot.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I can get on board with that.
let's go with
I
that.
think it. I think it's important that they hear or see this figure behind them activate a lever to seal them in.
Oh, so they know they've
I
been
think
sealed in
they know they've been sealed in at that point.
before they even go
They
into
don't
the
know
vault.
why. Before they've entered, they know they've been sealed in. They see this person. They don't know why. They don't know who this person is attached to. They just know that someone, after they've gone through, it could have just been a goblin that or some other entity that was in the crypts that they didn't see
Mm-hmm.
after clearing it. They don't know because all they know is they're starting out at level 3. This is where they're at, and this is the first thing they see upon entering into this room, cavern, whatever, is this figure immediately seal them in,
Yeah.
and they have no idea why, but it's a hint, something.
See, I want to save that until after they found the item. So I want them
Oh,
to
okay,
think that this is a standard heist, right? That they're gonna
okay.
crack the vault, get inside, get the item, and it's clear sailing from here, boys. And then they go to leave, and
And that's when they see someone pull the lever and seal
well,
them in there.
they go back, and the way is now sealed, and they're like, "What gives? This is the way we
Okay.
go." And then all of a sudden, the second crew says, "Oh, hello there. We know the way out. We were sent by your employer. Please follow us." Automatically, they're going to go, "What is going on here? That something about
Okay.
this
Yep.
smells fishy."
I
And
like
then
it.
it just gets
I like it.
progressively more and more sinister as they go on.
I like it.
Okay, let's talk about
Yep.
when this all happens. I I don't know that timing really matters because it's just going to be one continuous scene, right? Without any breaks in
Yeah.
between.
Yeah. I'm not sure that. I think the win only matters if you're, say, taking this and inserting it into a larger, longer campaign. If someone were to use this concept like that.
Yep.
Um, Otherwise, I think the win is fairly unimportant.
Yeah, unless we're running two teams, like we said, and and these two stories are gonna run simultaneously. The when is really of no importance.
Yeah.
And why this is all happening, we talked about that already. The employer has sent them down there either to retrieve this item for nefarious reasons or to feed them to the dungeon, which is all the same to them.
Yeah.
So let's move on. So finally, we're at the at the first room of the 5-room dungeon, and I think that